Okay, welcome to Indonesian Homestead again. I like to tell you a little bit about papaya. Um, we have down in the city, which is about, about almost 400 meter lower. Uh, when you talk about uh, the amount of meters below, above sea level, not below, of course. Anyway, so we are right here standing more than 1100 meters above sea level. Down in the city where we used to live, it is about, that's about 650, almost 700 meter above sea level. So that's about 400 meter difference. We're higher here, of course. So down there we have this papaya, and actually we were not really doing much. We don't really care too much about it. It was just for fun. We put this papaya plant and it started growing and it started growing, and we were amazed until it's like 6 meters tall, and it's fruited with papayas for a long time, a couple of years at least. I think about 3 years before we had to simply cut it down because it was, it was humongous. Now we have another one doing the same thing. Anyway, so when we moved to the farm, we said, well, we got all these bananas now, let's have some papaya too, because they are very similar in their needs for the soil and for the conditions and whatnot. Anyway, so for the past 3 years we've been trying, and we've been failing, okay, for different reasons. Number one is, it's a couple of things you should know about papaya. When you want to grow them from seeds, don't put your finger on there. Okay. When you want to grow it from seed, you should know a couple of things. Number one is, there are many insects that actually dig into the ground and take out the seed. So that means that you might have a full tray of papaya seeds, and then nothing ever comes up, and the fact is they're not even in the ground anymore, which is one of our problems, that what happened. Number two is, you've got to have the right mixture of compost and soil and whatnot, and we tried different ways, and we got a bit successful now. Another problem is that when you get the seedlings from out of the seeds and they start growing, and you're saying now it's 25, 30 centimeters tall or whatever, now I want to plant them out, and you drag it out of the soil and you try to stick it in the ground, and a couple of days later it will be hanging like this, and you know that it's not going to survive, and most of the time they don't, because they do not like to be moved. Okay, so if you have to plant them from seeds, you have to plant them in something that you can take and put into the ground instead of having to take the seedling out of the ground. So if you make pots out of newspaper or something like that, you can just plant it straight out, which is what we are doing now, and that works a little bit better. You can be lucky. You can plant them out sometimes as a seedling directly from ground into another soil, but it's not very successful, the rate. Anyway, so recently I discovered that there was another reason that we were not very successful. The fact is that papayas, they like to grow at a height of about 800 meters above sea level. That's the place they like, okay, which is kind of close to what we have down in the city. And here we have 1100 meters, and the fact is that according to those professionals who are having plantations with the papayas, they're saying that the maximum height above sea level is 1000 meters. So we are actually more than 100 meters higher, and that has to do with the amount of oxygen in the percentage of oxygen we're having. The air will get thinner the higher you get, and certain plants are just not doing very well in these conditions. So, but as you can see, we do have a papaya here, and it does have a couple of fruits coming. We don't know yet. We are, you know, we are hoping that it will be okay. This one you can see is flowering, and we're getting some fruit. There's a tiny fruit right here. I'm not going to touch it because, you know, we don't want to push our luck here. So it is possible, but we have, I think we have less than 10 papayas around this size here that after 3 years trying this and that, we have finally managed to get them to grow in different places. And also they don't like too much wind, and we are now on top of a mountain kind of, so we get a lot of wind. So it's there are different ways to deal with that as well. We have a lot of other trees that kind of reduce the wind that's hitting the papaya, of course. So anyway, so that's a very important thing to know. Which is another thing again, because some people they see us in Facebook and they see what we are doing, and you know, I'm a permaculture designer, so I follow some of the permaculture principles, and you know, they wonder sometimes why we are not doing better than what we are. And the fact is, it's about height. It's about the amount of height above sea level that we have, that a lot of the things that you go down 500, 600 meter below this height, this level, and all these seeds are germinating, and they are putting them in the ground, and they got these bushy tomatoes 6, 7, 8, up to 10 meter high, laden with tomato fruits, and basically, you know, they are like, where's your tomatoes? Yeah, and we do have some tomatoes, but the problem is it took us a long time to locate the right seeds that are actually successful at this height we are at. So if you know, want to look at what we are doing, and you know, maybe you feel like we are not doing really well, you got to remember that it takes a long time to actually figure out what works where you are, because we have a unique position and a unique condition with surrounded, basically we have 270 degrees around, we have wind coming in. 270 degrees, okay, maybe 290 if not 300. So it's more, almost a whole way around we got wind coming in, and as well as it gets, you know, down to 15 degrees Celsius at night, and it goes up to almost 35 degrees Celsius at noon. So that's another thing again. We have a big temperature shift, and then we have up to 99% humidity at certain times, and then we have at other times 15% humidity. So we are really continuously learning and finding new ways, which is another thing that I'm going to tell you about here. I'm standing here. This is a little trick that I found out, or we learned from our trial and error. This is elephant grass, okay? The cows love it, our goats love it too, our sheep love it, they all love this. This is their main food. So what we have decided to do is we are going to plant that everywhere we can find a little piece where we can dig up and put it in. So what we are doing here is we are basically turning the soil, spreading some manure around it, making sure we are not disturbing the fruit trees. There are some mango, there's a what is that, cacao over there, there is taro, there is papaya here, and another mango, and some legumes and bananas and so on, right in this little place here. There's a bunch of bananas getting close to being plucked there. I have no idea what happened with that one there. Probably my son just stuck it in the ground. Anyway, what we do is we dig the soil, we turn the soil, we put in the manure, and then basically we get from somebody else who have a lot of the banana grass, and basically what we do is we cut it so it has two nodes. You see there are two nodes, all right? And as you can see, this node is nice, right there, it's coming out, okay? So basically what you want to do is you want to put it in the ground, so you cover one node, and the other node will start turning into, there will be another piece of grass here coming out, and that will spread. And as most